Yesterday, the Bears had great players coming in. Today, the Bears have players out the door. This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, what a difference a day makes. Thanks for joining another episode of Locked On Baylor. I am your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, and thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. Huge decommitment on the football side of things, with a little salt in the wound at the end of it too. The transfer portal opened on Monday as well, and Bears are throwing their name in there. We didn't see a lot in the early portal, December, but we are starting to see it now, specifically at one position. We're going to go over how that wide receiver room is getting thinned down. And Baylor star Jalen Bridges has made his decision on where and what league he's going to play in next year. We're going to go over that decision as well. But really, to start, it was not a good Monday for the Baylor football team. On top of having couple of guys go into the portal, they got the news late afternoon that their top commit in the class of 2025, the straw that stirred the drink of that class that might well save Dave Aranda's job, well, Adam Schobel is no longer coming. The Columbus, Texas quarterback put out in a tweet on Monday afternoon that not only was he decommitting from Baylor, but in the same tweet, committed to Oklahoma State with the graphic and everything, his family with the picture with Mike Gundy. He is now, for the moment, an Oklahoma State Cowboy, and that is a big loss for Baylor. This momentum that has been coming in the 2025 class has been very, very real, but the guy who was in there before the Keenan Hall effect took place in the offseason, and the guy who solidifies that as a top 3 class in the Big 12 for 2025 was Adam Schobel. And now he is taking his talents up the road to Stillwater. And that is a big loss for the Bears. It has been well noted that they have struggled the last couple of years in getting high quality high school quarterbacks through the door, keeping them to stay with their commitment, and, also keeping them to stay on campus after a year. It's been a real struggle for the Bears, especially within the state of Texas, to have that go on. And Adam Schobel, I mean, this is a guy that I think is going to be a star in college football. I mean, he was one that I think had committed to Baylor, at least had gotten the offer from Baylor after his freshman season at Columbus High, where he's coached by his dad there, Matt Schobel. But big, tall kid, 6'4", still kind of, rounding out that frame, kind of getting the muscle to fill out that frame. But what I was really impressed with looking at his first film, so after his freshman year and through his sophomore year as well, is he's got some good arm talent, man. He didn't have a lot of zip on the ball back then, but he's 14, 15 years old. What he could do, though, is he could throw it sideline to sideline, which is something that young quarterbacks tend to struggle with. And a lot of guys don't really figure out that arm strength and that arm talent until a couple of years into a college career. And that was something that he had right away. And could pick apart his own defense with the best of them. And that's obviously a big part of high school football. Now I will say I did see him play live this year, and it was, I would have to think probably the worst game of his career. And that was against Lorena, Jaden Porter, another Baylor commit, class 2024. In fact, Porter picked him off. The guy who's going to play slot receiver for Baylor was playing safety for Lorena on the night as well. And Schobel just couldn't get anything going. He threw for -2 yards in the second half, but that was an anomaly. I mean, this kid has been a big time quarterback the last couple of years. He is near the top of the Texas quarterback rankings for the class of 2025. And it felt like a big win for Baylor when you got him to sign on. Because it was not a positive time for Baylor on the recruiting trail anyway, and we're really just starting to turn that corner into a good situation on the recruiting trail. But he was a guy who committed after they had lost out on Austin Novosad and lost out on Walker White from Little Rock Christian in Arkansas. And they needed a big name, and Sean Bell was able to get his commitment. And here we are as he heads into his senior year, now an Oklahoma State Cowboy. I will say this, because I know there are some Oklahoma State fans tuning into this too. I don't mean this in a bad way or to throw shade at the kid, by no means, but I would be surprised if this is the last commitment he has. Not trying to be like those, oh, you didn't stand by your word, which, like, no, although we didn't, but I'm not trying to be like that. It's just that this reminds me very much of the Austin Novosad situation that Baylor had a couple of years ago. The quarterback out of Dripping Springs who had committed to Baylor, and then his stock skyrocketed. And before his senior year, he was starting to get official visits to Notre Dame and A&M and to Ohio State and these big time programs, A&M notwithstanding. And we were really, really nervous. We were sweating it out. And obviously, you remember how that saga went. He said, I'm sticking with Baylor. And then, like, literally the 11th hour, the night before National Signing Day, Oregon swooped in, gave him a bag. He never even visited and said, I'm going to Oregon. And it seems like that could be, I don't want to say Schobel's going to wait to the 11th hour, but what I think he's going to get some very good offers through his senior year. He's a guy who's, again, still growing, prototypical style of quarterback, though, 6'4", 6'5", can run it a little bit because he's tough to bring down, and can make the passes that you want, all the passes that you want for a kid at this level. Obviously, a very good background on him, where he's starting. I mean, it was also cool that you were taking him from TCU, because both his dad and his uncle played at TCU. In fact, his uncle has sacked Tom Brady more than anybody else in the NFL, just in case you want to know that. But he's like a 3,000-yard thrower the last couple of years. As a sophomore, I think that touchdown to interception was like 36-4. He completes between 70 to 75% of his passes. Runs the 200 in a pretty good time, in case you're interested in that kind of thing. And you look at the offers that he got, and Houston, Baylor, Oklahoma State, like, clearly those are the big names out of it. So we haven't even hit the A&Ms, the UTs, the OUs of the world. And I think those are going to come knocking on his door here in his senior year. So don't be surprised if this is not the last commitment, but this is a huge loss for Baylor to take the top guy from your 2025 class, and quarterback, no less, which is, of course, the most important position. And in the same tweet, he decommits from you and commits to a conference rival. That is a tough pill to swallow if you're a Baylor fan. And it truly is. I think Schobel is going to be a Power 5 starter. Like, I could see that, no problem. And we'll see if it's at Oklahoma State. But for right now, you folks up in Stillwater, you pokes, I think you got a good one here. And their gain is very much Baylor's loss in this scenario. Today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by Gametime. I know y'all are looking out there for the best concerts, shows, and of course games as well to hit to. We've got baseball in full swing, so it's time to get out to the ballpark. And I know you don't want to go through the hassle of most ticketing websites. Well, most of those are not Gametime. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, okay? What I love about it is you go on there and you see an all-in price, the price you are going to pay. It's not like everyone else who is going to, double the fees and double the price. It's not like that. You get to see the view from your seats before you ever hit purchase, and you know exactly what you're paying, okay? And they're the best place for last-minute ticket deals as well. So even right up to game time, Gametime will have you covered. They'll also have the lowest price guarantee. So if you are able to go to a different website, different ticketing website, third party, and they have a ticket in your row, in your section that is cheaper than Gametime, Gametime will make that up to you. They will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. So download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, and that, of course, is guaranteed, because today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Okay, this is the time to get in there and make all these sports more interesting. Okay, we got playoff time in the NBA, in the NHL, obviously baseball in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So easy that I'm making money off it. Trust me, that's easy. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So Adam Schobel commits to a conference rival in the same breath. Not a great day for Baylor football. Nothing they could really control, but not a great day for them. It was also the day that the transfer portal opened. And the first foray for the Bears into the transfer portal comes heavy at the wide receiver position. Okay. With it from Sunday night to Monday evening, you had 3 receivers announce that they are going into the portal. That would be Armani Winfield, Javon Gipson, and Jordan Nabors. Now, is that a good thing? No, it's not great. But I will say about all 3 of those guys, I don't know that you were going to see them on the Biletnikoff list this year. You know, I don't know how big a part of the offense they would be in or would be for the Bears. Now, what is kind of sad about this is 2 of those 3 guys were big time recruits when you pulled them in. So, you know, you hear all the Adam Schobel stuff and you're like, boy, that's a big miss. Well, maybe this is a reminder that no one is a finished product out of high school. And Armani Winfield was the big prospect, 4-star kid out of Louisville, and was made famous. He committed right after the Sugar Bowl victory and was famous because Alabama really wanted him. And he turned down Alabama for Baylor, which was rare then. It was rare 10 years ago when Baylor was at its peak. It's pretty rare now. It was a big deal. The only guy I could remember doing that was D'Angelo Hall, who also they wanted at Alabama, and they didn't let him play the position he wanted to play. I don't remember what it was. So it doesn't happen often. And so that drew a lot of attention, and he was a big stud. I mean, he was a 4-star kid right up the road in Louisville, where they got Caden and Cameron Jenkins as well. A guy who really projected to be a top guy. And in fact, I looked back at this yesterday. Gabe Brooks, who was a big time evaluator of talent, especially up there in North Texas, had him as an NFL guy. Like, they have projections on, you know, is this kid going to be a depth guy, a power 5 starter, something like that. He had him as an NFL draft projection, a day 3 pick as out of high school. Okay. Very fast guy, but tall. They call him a long-framed outside receiver with long strides. That's just fancy for saying he is a heck of an athlete. He's like a thoroughbred out there, and says he faces the best competition you can basically play at the high school level at Texas 6A. And just had all these glowing things to say about him. Long-term ceiling includes NFL draft potential. That is a lot to put on there as a high school kid on 247. So he was a big prospect coming in, but just never really got a shake. I mean, he redshirted that freshman year, appeared in a couple of games, appeared in some games last year, didn't make an impact. I don't think he ever had a touchdown. Was just never one that factored in, even when Baylor really needed help at outside receiver last year. Armani Winfield still did not factor into the fray. It was really Ketron Jackson or I think it's now Ketron Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. Dave Aranda's saying Ketron. Ketron Jackson was out there on the outside, kind of on an island a lot, especially after Hal Presley got hurt. So that was one that you were kind of hoping for. Hey, can you give us a little bit more here? And it just never panned out. And so I'm sure a change of scenery will probably be good for him too. And having those prospects out of high school, I'm thinking would still get him some good looks, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at a level down just because he didn't play a lot at Baylor. Another guy who didn't play a lot was Javon Gipson, who entered in the transfer portal. Another one of those guys who was a stud out of high school. I think he might have also been a 4-star guy. 3-star, sorry, high 3-star at George Ranch High School. He was very successful there, had some hype coming in. I remember like videos out of practice in his freshman year, and you're like, boy, here's the future. Here he comes. And again, another one like Armani Winfield just never really got a look. He's a Matt Mosley favorite. Love seeing him in practice. Had a great grab in the spring finale the other day, but not doing it on the field. I don't think he's ever started a game. He's played in 14 games the last 2 years, all off the bench. In fact, his picture on the Baylor website is not him. They'll have like his headshot, and then like a header picture is someone wearing his number. I can't remember the cornerback's name. He had a pick 6 against Tech 2 years ago in Lubbock. And so there's him, 19, got the ball in his hand, ref behind him signaling touchdown. Javon Gipson never had a touchdown for Baylor. So that was not him. Very funny. In fact, both his catches that year in 2022 were against Texas State. So that's definitely not him. Another one who is probably looking at a group of 5, maybe even an FCS level, but who had a ton of talent coming out of high school and just never really got on the field. So hate to see those guys go, because I would love to see them develop into players, but it just hadn't happened yet. Now, the third one is interesting. Jordan Nabors, who does not have earth-shattering numbers or anything like that, but he is one who, when he got the ball, he was a playmaker. And you saw that the last couple of years. He's another North Texas kid, Rockwall Heath, small, short, slot receiver guy, 5'11", 190, who just never really had a huge playing spot on the field, right? He had a couple of touchdowns. He had a touchdown over OU. I remember that game in Norman. He had a touchdown, I believe, against Kansas that year. Like he was explosive on the end around, the gadget plays. And I was always intrigued by giving him a bigger role in the offense. But that's one of those things where, if a guy's explosive and he's not making it onto the field, there's something deeper behind that. And I don't know what exactly it is for Jordan Nabors, but I think one of the things is Monaray Baldwin, I think, is going to be an all-conference player this year. And Jordan Nabors is essentially the same player, just a little bit less. Monaray Baldwin's had no trouble getting onto the field the last 2 years. And I expect him, again, to be an all Big 12 kind of guy. And Nabors, he's one of those gadget guys who you hope to stick around, but that's not really college football anymore. In the era of the transfer portal, those guys don't stick around because they think, hey, I've got a shot to be a real contributor somewhere else. So he had a nice message out there to the Baylor fans. So that stinks to see him go, because you saw the flashes of potential in there. But Baylor's going to be well taken care of at the slot position, which we will talk about this week. But Monaray Baldwin certainly at the top of that list. A couple of transfers coming in there who I think are going to make some noise and in the slot position as well. So three receivers going into the portal on top of Adam Schobel decommitting and committing somewhere else. Not a great day at the office for your Baylor Bears football team. Okay, look, we've all been there before, okay? Halftime, you're looking up either as a player, as a fan, and the scoreboard, it ain't looking good, okay? Maybe it's like the Mavs game on Sunday. You're feeling low. You're not sure that your team or your guys beside you are going to pull out the win. And that's when you dig deep. That's when you lift your head up and you say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game and pull off some bank heists. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you play with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime and with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do, okay? You can play on the countless Monopoly boards. You can bankrupt your friends and smash their landmarks. You can charge other players rent for your iconic properties, or maybe you're a little bit nicer and you can work with your friends to crack open community chests. And in those tournaments, you can get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now available for free on the App Store or on Google Play. So the news at the beginning of the week was, of course, Jeremy Roach from Duke coming to Baylor, right? Big get. And I said at the end of that episode, hey, there's still a chance. There's a chance out there that Jalen Bridges comes back and is the conquering hero, and he's the All-American player that he was looking like towards the end of the 2024 season. Now I'm here to report to you a day later, there's no chance. There's no chance of that. Unsurprisingly, Jalen Bridges made the announcement Monday that he will be entering into the 2024 NBA draft. He didn't say anything about hiring an agent, but the way he worded it and, thanked West Virginia and Coach Huggins and Baylor and Scott Drew that he's not coming back. And he did have the COVID year to play with, but elects not to do that. Then again, this is not too surprising. I think Jalen's game really gels well with the NBA game. And that's not to say he's going to be a star or a starter or anything like that. But I think he is going to play in the NBA. I think he's going to have some G League time, of course, but I think you'll see him in the NBA in the next year or two. I really think his game lends itself to that. I think we started to see the real potential towards the last month of the 2024 season when he had a lot of confidence in that shot. Can still play inside out. He'll need to add some bulk, of course, but can still play the inside game in the NBA. In fact, I had kind of talked about him as the unsung hero for most of the season that became the sung hero by the end of it. But you're talking about a guy who's going to shoot 40% from three, and can still get down there and rebound for you. I just think a 3-and-D kind of guy, yes, not the way that Jacoby Walter will be, because he has the potential to be a damn good role player in the NBA, but absolutely a guy who could defend a couple different positions, switchable defensively, and can shoot the rock. And that's really what matters. And that's a game that he developed at Baylor. I think back to the early part of his first season, 22-23, and there were fans that were not happy with Jalen Bridges. I think there was a bit of an identity crisis for Bridges and what the kind of player he was and how that would translate to Baylor's offense. And what ended up being that he was a perfect fit for Baylor's offense, but it wasn't quite the same game he was playing at West Virginia. And so, boy, yeah, I will think about the chance that Baylor had of him coming back and being an All-American, like Fran Fraschilla talked about, being a Kevin McCullough at Kansas kind of player. And I thought if he did come back, you were talking top 5 in the country easily with the talent that they had on the team. But he's made that announcement. He is entering into the NBA draft. He's still projected as like a second-round pick. I don't see him climbing into the first round. I hope he does. I hope I'm wrong. But I do see him in that second round range, and we'll probably see quite a bit of G League time next year. But I really believe this. This is not me being a homer. I think he's going to be in the NBA. Again, not sixth man of the year, not a starter, but a guy who can hang around in the NBA, which is not easy to do. And we're starting to see a lot of Bears in there, man. Of course, we're going to see Messi and Walter in there next year, but with Butler and Mitchell and Sohan and O'Neal, like, you're seeing a lot of guys. Keontae has a great rookie year. Like, you're starting to see Adam Flagler, G League champion. You're starting to see Bears all around the NBA. And I think Jalen Bridges will continue in that tradition. And now it leaves a spot open on the wing. Igor Milicic, I'm talking to you. Okay, that leaves a spot potentially for the UNC Charlotte wing, 6'10", and can shoot the rock. Come and be a Jalen Bridges. We'd love that, man. We will still see, obviously wait with bated breath. It could happen any minute now. Both he and Jonas Adu have still not committed yet, but are looking to trend positively towards Baylor. Now, if Milicic doesn't come in, then we have to have a discussion because Asamoah is a wing. Jason Asamoah is a wing, but he's not the shooter that either of those two guys are, and that will take some time to develop. So that will be interesting to see if they maybe even go Langston Love at a little bit of almost a small forward, but really a third guard with the way that he can play physically. But anyway, point of it, Jalen Bridges going to the NBA. Congratulations, Jalen. Go be great because you became kind of a cult hero for the Bears. We loved having you around here. You were a huge part of that back half of this season. We'll never forget that senior night performance against UT. We will always have that. Another Bear going into the NBA. Let me know what you think about that. Drop that down in the comments below. How you're feeling about this Adam Schobel news. Tough one to take. And about the receivers going into the portal. Do you think it's going to matter that much? I think we've got good depth at that position, which I can't say about all the position groups. But let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us wherever you get your podcast. You can drop the notification bell here on YouTube to know when we're dropping videos each and every day. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.